inshallah. I want to see this move. Wow.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone watching at home, and welcome to today's Ask Eman episode for Friday Live. We're going to be here for the next hour with you, brothers and sisters, to take your questions and get them answered for you by our Shaykh today, authentically according to the Quran and Sunnah. So if you'd like to get in contact, call us on 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you can send your questions to our WhatsApp number, email address, and if you're watching along on Facebook or YouTube online, then you're able to leave your questions at the comment section, inshallah. So without further ado, I'll be your host for today, and joining us is our dear Shaykh Imam Wasim Kempson. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. How are you today?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I'm very well. Barakallahu feek.
Good to have you with us, Shaykh. How's your week been so far, Shaykh? Have you been here this week?
Yeah. Where?
The show, yeah.
No, I have been in the studio for a long time actually.
Really? Okay,
Yeah. It's been a few weeks. 2 weeks maybe. But
Me too, yeah.
during the holidays, time goes real. It feels quick.
Yeah.
Before you know it, the school thing starts again, doesn't it?
Yeah, subhanAllah.
It's Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's good.
Alhamdulillah, Shaykh. Thank you so much for being with us. I'd like to ask you for a short reminder, Shaykh, as we start every show, and then we can get to some questions from our viewers, inshallah.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All praise belongs to Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So what I want to mention today in brief, inshallah ta'ala, is the Quranic narrative with regards to its impact on us as a community, as a society, and as individuals. Now, we all know our purpose, why we are all here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions and tells us in the Quran very clearly, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I did not create jinn and mankind except to worship me. And the ibadat, or the worship that is mentioned, that we do on a daily basis, like salah, fasting we do every year, hajj every year, zakah every year if we qualify for that. These are only mentioned, if you think about it, really in general terms in the Quran. It doesn't go into great detail. I mean, if you think about fasting, it's only mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, really. There's only some verses mentioned on that. With salah, it talks about the obligation of the prayer, it talks about rough timings, but the actual how to pray, we don't find that in the Quran, subhanAllah. But what we do find in the Quran is a detailed narrative of how we interact with one another. That's in great detail. Marriage, divorce, inheritance, money dealings, all the interactions that we have with one another, they're mentioned in great detail. So what I understand from this, subhanAllah, is that we are to be molded and impacted by the Quran in how we behave with one another. And when Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the manners of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said radiallahu anha, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ, that his mannerisms and his characteristics, how he behaved essentially, was the Quran. And when you look closely, the Quran very much focuses on how we behave as people. Even though our purpose is ibadah, the ibadah is mentioned in general terms somewhat. But our interaction with one another, and you can look carefully in Surah Al-Hujurat, I think it's the 49th chapter of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focuses on how we speak with one another, how we deal with one another, before marriage, during marriage, after marriage. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks to push us in a direction as a society how we should be. And if we then go another way, for example, not looking to see the Quran as something which will mold us, this is how we want to be in general, then we end up picking and choosing from the Quran in the way that we like, which is a musibah, to be honest with you. This is a calamity that the people will refer to the Quran only when they feel or deem it necessary for their lives. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be a generation which has a close link with the Quran, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to allow the Quran to impact us in a way that is pleasing to Him subhanahu. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So, I had the question, Shaykh, it's a bit late now, but it's always good to know the answer. For the New Year's,
which one? The Buddhist, the Jewish, the Chinese?
The Gregorian calendar.
There's many New Years, you see.
There are. You know what, Shaykh? Yesterday someone asked me, is counting down to the New Year's haram or disliked. So I thought, you know what, let me do some research. So I was like, origins of the new year, and that's the issue I had. There's so many new years. It's
Yeah,
not,
really.
you'd think there's just like the one that's recognized, kind of 2020 or all of this, but there's a few. But just that question, Shaykh, how do we understand the countdown? Because at the end, people will have these questions. It's a culture.
Yeah.
People want to get involved sometimes.
Yeah. So I think there are different. I mean, you've touched on one issue, and it goes back to the countdown. Okay, is this something permissible for us to do? To participate in some form of non-religious celebration, and also in a time where, if as a Muslim, you say things like that the Prophet ﷺ, quoting narrations, that Allah Jalla wa Ala and the Prophet ﷺ gave to us 2 Eids, and that should be enough for us really. And then you are seen as some form of freak, even, that you have some form of identity crisis that you don't want to integrate and that you don't want to participate in your society, just merely because you say, well, I don't really see that as something necessary for me. We're living in very trying and different times. We're holding on to, if you like, saying that I just want to do what I find in Islam is sufficient for me. You're seen as some form of a person who's not willing to integrate or behave socially acceptable, which is, of course, something which is alien to Islam. As Muslims, we are an important part of the society, but you shouldn't feel as though you have to participate in every single celebration that pops your way. Okay, whether it's you can name the Egyptian New Year. This is especially Egyptian. There's as I mentioned, the Jewish and the Buddhist and the Chinese and the Gregorian, all of these different celebrations. I mean, where do you draw the line? Okay, where do you draw the line? Yep, albeit those other celebrations might not be as famous or as well known here in the UK. The countdown itself, is it haram? I cannot say haram. I cannot say haram. But I would say that where you holding on to an identity is becoming more difficult as time goes on, I think that, yeah, okay, it might not be haram, but try at least to do something which doesn't dissolve what you see as your Islamic identity. So I'm not saying it is haram. However, what I'm saying is I think that there are more important things for us to be trying to do and trying to engage in to be part of our society. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is best.
Shaykh, do you think that maybe the desire or to maybe take part in things like this may come from the lack of keeping to priorities? And if priorities were kept to, for example, salah given its due, the sunnah given its due, meaning as a lifestyle and how you do things, you'd find yourself very naturally deterred from other kind of celebrations and stuff, because like you said, it's not haram, or as you said, you cannot say it's haram, but Islam, it's not silent on it. There is an understanding that there's 2 Eids in the year, and stuff like that.
So everyone's journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unique in what they face and the challenges and trials and tribulations and whatever comes their way is something unique to them. But I think that, as you go through your journey, that there are things which you deem important. This is something that is important to me. I value this. And maybe it's something which you have given value to something which in itself has no value. But you have given it value for whatever reason. And there are things which have value, but people, for whatever reason, it goes over their head and they don't give the value and due that it has. So I think it is important for us as Muslims to value what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger alayhi salam gave value to. And that we focus on that, and that is a starting point for us. Okay? Then we can move forward. But in a time where Muslims are, in a lot of circumstances, not really giving value to what should be valued, okay, not giving much attention to it, and things which have no value, paying great attention to that, then we say there's a problem. It's okay to isolate one thing and say that, well, there's no problem doing that. It's not an issue. But when we look at things on a grander scale, and we can see that there are issues within our community, recognizing certain matters, giving value to certain things, then we tell everybody, yeah, it's okay, go and do that. And they're not giving value to Eid and not giving value to Islamic principles and Islamic narrative, if you like, then here's the problem. And here is the problem, okay? So I think that the ulama, who understand these matters on a broader kind of scale, are not many. And the advice that they give shouldn't be seen as divisive, but should be seen as following the way which was taught to them through the generations, and that is to preserve your Muslim identity, not to have. And preserving your Muslim identity, by the way, doesn't mean cutting yourself off from others, okay? Preserving your Muslim identity doesn't mean that you reject society that you are living in, but understanding who you are and what you are means that you are able to decipher what is important to you, what is important that will make you a better Muslim, and avoiding those things really which have little value, okay? Because you find that maybe the person has a celebration every week, and then what do they value? Everything is the same. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you for the answer. We have more questions after our first break. So Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Wasim. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far. We're going to take a short break now for a few minutes, after which we'll be back to continue taking your calls and your questions from our emails, WhatsApp, YouTube and Facebook. So do stay tuned. When we're back, give us a call if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll be getting to the rest of your questions from online, inshallah. For now, stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back after our short break to today's Ask Eman show with Imam Wasim Kempson, where we're going to be here live for the next 45 minutes up until 8:30 with you, brothers and sisters. So if you have any questions, give us a call on 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you can send your questions to our WhatsApp number, email address, and if you're watching along online on Facebook or YouTube, you can leave your questions at the comment section, inshallah. So, assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. So, Shaykh, we were speaking about, before the break, we were speaking about New Year, lifestyle, sunnah, all of that. So, alhamdulillah. So now we're going to move on to our next question, Shaykh, which is, my name, assalamu alaikum, my name is Yusra. I have a marriage proposal. The man was married already and has 2 kids from a first wife. Should that be a concern?
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. So unfortunately, we find in some communities that there is a kind of stigma behind somebody who was previously married. Maybe they have children. Is that a concern? No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. There are times when marriages, they do break down and people go their own way. But as the Prophet ﷺ told us, with regards to the sister, if a man comes to you, تَرْضَوْنَهُ خُلَقُهُ وَدِينَهُ, that you are happy with their manners, their behavior and their religion, فَزَوِّجُوهُ, then marry the individual. Okay, you're attracted to him, then really that should be the most important thing. There will be some added responsibility for him, but if you feel this is something which you can deal with and it doesn't affect the future, then it shouldn't be a stumbling block for you. If, however, you feel it's not for you, then simply just don't marry. It's up to you. You're in a position where the options are open to you. Okay, don't discriminate against the person because of that situation. But if it's something you're happy with it, alhamdulillah. If it's something that you'd rather not, because for whatever reason you have, okay, then that's your choice, alhamdulillah. Don't, for example, get involved in a situation, you get married, and then you complain and say, oh, I'm unhappy now, you're spending too much time with your children, or I didn't realize it was going to be like this, what is happening? The time for kind of complaining is gone, really, because you've made the decision to marry that individual. So try to find out as much as you can with regards to what the reality will be if you marry that individual. But if you're happy with their religion, you're happy with their manners, they're a good person, then these people are not they're not 10 a dozen. Okay, to find a good person, a person who will look after you, a person who will protect you, a person who will financially support you and teach you your religion, they're not everywhere. So if you find somebody like this, then pray istikhara if you feel good towards that, and of course consult your family, your wali, and then if everything is good, go for it, bismillah. If otherwise, then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala find you somebody who is more suitable for you. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Our next question is from our next caller, Sister Aisha from London. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum. Aisha, welcome to the show. Is this... Okay, we've lost the call. If you'd like to call back, we'll take your question, inshallah. For everyone watching at home, if you'd like to get in contact or send your questions, you'll find all the details you need coming and going at the bottom left side of your screen, inshallah. Our next question, Shaykh, is it permissible to leave your parents after embracing Islam?
To leave them?
Yes.
I'm not sure what the person means by leaving them. Did it mean moving out the home?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what it means. But whether you embrace Islam, it doesn't make a difference with regards to the situation and the relationship you have with your parents. That will, in fact, you may say that the onus on you now as a Muslim is a greater responsibility towards your parents. There isn't anything I know of outside of Islam that pushes and makes an obligation to respect and honor the parents, not just because society deems that to be the way, or something inherited through the generations. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned verses in the Quran. It's part of our wahi, part of the revelation that we read in the Quran in various places, that we are to serve our parents and obey our parents and be good to them and treat them in the very best way. You'll not find any other way of life that imposes upon the children that what you find in Islam with regards to one's parents. So now the reality has come to that person who their Lord is, and that Islam is the haqq for them, is the truth for them, and they follow that. Part of that truth is that they will honor and be righteous and good to their parents regardless of the situation. And you are now an example for your parents. They will see Islam through you. So you also have a responsibility to show them the very best of Al-Islam and to show them what the reality of Islam is about. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow you to remain steadfast upon this beautiful religion. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open the hearts of your parents, that they are able to see the reality of Islam, and that inshallah ta'ala that they one day will maybe enter into Islam at your hands. Allahumma ameen.
Ameen. Thank you so much, Shaykh. Our next question is from YouTube, and the question is, Assalamu alaikum, how can we pursue a path of knowledge in Islam, and how can we use our time wisely?
So, to follow a path of Islam?
How can we pursue a path of knowledge in Islam?
Knowledge in Islam.
Yeah.
Okay, so no doubt talabul ilm, or seeking knowledge, is one of the best paths that a person can pursue. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned many ahadith explaining that the person who pursues a path of knowledge, سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِهِ طَرِيقٌ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ease their way or their path to the paradise. So no doubt it is an honored path. Not everybody will have the energy, or they will have the level of sincerity to continue on that path. But seek knowledge wherever you can, whether it is through social media, or whether it is to sit at the feet of a person of knowledge, or to have contact with a person of knowledge. By whatever means you can, ensure that the person of knowledge you have contact with is a well-known person of knowledge. They're not majhul al-hal, they're just unknown person. We don't know who this person is, they're unqualified. Of course, you wouldn't go to a medical doctor to seek any form of diagnosis if you were ill. So therefore go to the people of knowledge who are known to be knowledgeable, who are trusted in the community. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah ta'ala, will open a way for you. Make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal that He makes things easy for you in your pursuit of knowledge. And Allah tabarak wa ta'ala will open that way for you bi-idhnillah ta'ala. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Ameen, Shaykh. Also, a part of the question is, how do we use our time wisely?
Using your time wisely, I mean, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, said, ni'matani, that there are two blessings, maghbunun fiha kathirun min an-nas, that many people are they're heedless of. As-sihhatu wal-faragh, with regards to their health and what can be deemed as free time. So all of us have responsibilities, whether it is work or university or studies or other obligations. Whatever time that you are not doing that and you have the choice of what you have to do, if you have an option to seek knowledge, then use that time wisely. Don't allow time to go past and constantly having these wishes like, oh, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you time to do that, then don't waste that blessing, that ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. But it's recognizing and being organized with your time so that you can maximize the benefit. Wallahu alam.
Ameen. May Allah help us with our time, Shaykh. Is it right to understand, Shaykh, that if someone finds their time is going by very quickly, they're not finding much coming from their time in terms of productivity or progress or outcome, results for anything, their life or their work? Is it correct to understand that there's not barakah in the time?
Yeah, I mean, it could be understood this way. You find that some people, subhanAllah, a very simple example you can put is that a person who has not much money, but subhanAllah is able to achieve a lot with the amount of money that is given to them. And another person who's given vast amounts of money, but doesn't really achieve much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows that individual who has less, but to get further, because Allah Jalla wa'ala blessed that mal, blessed that wealth. And the person who had more, there was no barakah in that. Similarly with time. You might find a person within a very short space of time is able to achieve a lot, is able to memorize a lot, is maybe able to study quite a lot, to achieve a lot, to another person who has lots and lots of time but doesn't achieve very much. At the end of that, you must realize that the one who achieved and the one who didn't achieve, they are not the same. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example. قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are the ones who know and the ones who don't know, are they the same? It's a rhetorical question. Of course, the answer is not the same. So if you find at the end you have had some form of injaz, you have some achievement, this is no doubt tawfiq from Allah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed you to achieve that. If you're a person who didn't achieve a lot in such, you had lots of time on your hands or lots of wealth on your hands and you didn't do very much with that, you must realize that there was no tawfiq for you. So maybe you need to change your situation. Wallahu ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you for your answer. Thank you to everyone who's watched along so far with our show. We're going to be back now after a few minutes for a break. When we're back, we'll continue taking your questions. So if you have any questions, give us a call after the break. For now, stay tuned. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to today's Ask Eman show. We're going to be here with you, brothers and sisters, for the next 30 minutes to take your questions and get them answered for you authentically according to the Quran and Sunnah with our Shaykh today, Imam Wasim Kempson. So welcome back after the break. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
We usually don't shake hands, but I've been adding it today between breaks as well.
I was thinking, are you going to do it for the third part of the show that you've done for the first two? And if you didn't do it, I was going to pull you up.
Oh, okay. You got to keep up the standard with it, Shaykh. Okay, so our next question is from WhatsApp, Shaykh, and the question is actually it's from YouTube, from Sister Nadia Hussein, and the question is: if I happen to touch dry men, okay. If I happen to touch dry menses on a fabric, or the clothes I pray with happen to touch dry menses, can it break wudu?
So, touching an impurity, regardless of what that impurity is, touching it does not nullify your wudu. Okay, so if you were to, azakumullah, you were to touch urine, okay, but it doesn't nullify your wudu. You'll be required to wash your hand, but it doesn't nullify your wudu. Okay, so that answers the question, inshallah.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is also from YouTube, from brother Zach Akhtar. Assalamu alaikum to our brother Zach Akhtar. His question is: Assalamu alaikum. What is a good proactive way to memorize the Quran?
So there are many ways. There isn't one way that you say, right, this is what you need to do. All of them, by the way, involve you picking up the Mus'haf and reading it and spending time with it, and being consistent, finding a teacher. These are all very important factors in you memorizing the Quran, whether it's 1 juz' or 30 juz', i.e. the whole Quran. So it requires you having a consistent relationship with the Quran. What I would do is try to find a trusted teacher who's proficient in the recitation of the Quran, who knows the rules of tajweed, and then inshallah ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place it within you to be consistent, and then you can be from those who memorize the Quran. So make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. He makes you from Ahlul Quran, from the people of the Quran, and I'm sure bi'idhnillahi ta'ala you will achieve your goal bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Allahu a'lam.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is from YouTube, from Modu Lamin. The question is: can I date a girl when I am looking forward to marrying her?
Okay, so alhamdulillah, we have in Islam guidance with regards to how to interact with one another. Whether you're interacting with your mother, your father, your spouse, or your soon-to-be spouse. Now, with regards to if there's an agreement between two people, brother and sister, that they will marry, okay, then after your marriage, you have your whole lives in front of you, inshallah ta'ala, to enjoy the time together, going to different places and traveling and whatnot, because you are in a contract, an agreement between yourselves that is now halal for you to be alone. Before that, that contract, it is not permissible for you to date. Okay, maybe things, and I ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He blesses you both, that you have, inshallah, you get married one day and you have a happy family and a blessed family. But, you know, there are certain circumstances where people will want to date before marriage, and then it goes wrong. Okay, and they don't end up marrying. And then what happens then? I.e. that you have had a relationship, you know, with a man and the brother and sister have had a relationship with each other like a married couple. And this is not correct. Quite simply, it's not correct. So this quote-unquote dating is not permissible before you get married. If you need to communicate with regards to the marriage, or the preparation of the marriage, and I would advise, if at all possible, not to delay it too much. Okay, don't make it, we're going to get married in 2 years. This is a long time. Maybe there are circumstances behind that, but try not to delay the nikah too long. But we must remain in line with the teachings that Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave to us, so that we don't fall into matters which are displeasing to Allah Jalla wa ala, wallahu a'lam.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question. Actually, before that, Shaykh, I wanted to ask, where does the dating culture come from? Or meaning, where is maybe the gap in society, or what faults give rise to this?
Listen, yeah. Whether you call it dating or you call it courting, it has a number of different terms. Okay, this is not specific to any one culture or people.
Yeah.
Okay, relationships before marriage can occur anywhere. Okay, and it comes in different forms. And those names are given to that. You know, it might be in a modern. You know, maybe people don't even want to use the word dating. You know, I don't know what to use, or they're courting. Well, they use the word courting maybe a good generation or so ago. You wouldn't use that now. I'm courting somebody. And they'd be like, you know, well, from what century are you living in? What do you mean courting? What does that mean? But this is a term that was used before, okay? So it's not something which is, you know, exclusive to, you know, a particular place or time. It's given different names. But the principle is essentially the same. And that is having a relationship with another person before marriage. That there are guidelines concerning that. And Islam looks to honor both the man and the woman and society at large. Everybody has their rights, and to dishonor somebody, to, you know, get involved in these things, and ultimately, maybe there are exceptions that people don't fall into haram, but by and large people will. And for this reason, that we follow the guidance concerning these matters, and it should be taken serious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran not to approach or come near zina, fornication. The person says, well, fornication is not even on my mind. Maybe that is the case, but there are muqaddimat, that there are certain things which, or path that a person may traverse before they reach something like fornication. It might start with a glance, and then it starts with a smile, and after that it continues with a hello and a good morning and how are you, and then it continues, can I buy you a coffee, and then it continues, oh, what time's your lunchtime, we go together, and things, you know, they slowly or very quickly snowball, and before you know it, the person is in a state of regret. So we take things very seriously about the interaction we have with one another. We are respectful, and being respectful is of the utmost importance, and honoring of the other person in the very best way is something as a Muslim we should uphold. Okay, and adhering to these teachings will ensure, inshallah ta'ala, you're able to respect and honor that individual, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is best.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. You remind me of something I was going to ask you at the very beginning of the show, Shaykh, around the countdown. And, you know, we were speaking about the topic, and I was thinking that part of it is also that part of it being wrong is that we also understand that, as you said, once you start something, you're very likely not just going to stay at the countdown. You know, there are things that come with that culture or that event, you know, and stuff that aren't beyond the countdown, that are part of taking part in celebrations. And then maybe this year you don't countdown, but next year you keep going down the same direction. You're going to do more than a countdown. You know, you're going to start making New Year's resolutions.
If I can draw a parallel, you know, subhanallah, when we're in the month of Ramadan, okay, and it comes towards the last 10 nights, and then quite possibly it could be Eid for us the next day. There's a genuine excitement within us, okay, and that there's a feeling of, maybe there's somebody, you went through difficulty in Ramadan, long days and whatnot, but then maybe the one or last 2 days of Ramadan, you feel almost a little bit of, subhanallah, Ramadan is leaving us. But then you have the happiness of Salatul Eid and Eid prayer, and you have meeting family, and it actually has value. It means something, okay? As opposed to a celebration, there's a countdown, you know, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then what? Really, what? What value was, what happened? What happened? Nothing happened. All you're going to change is, you write, instead of 2019, you just write 2020.
And a bit of fireworks, Shaykh.
Yeah, the fireworks. Okay, but if it's the fireworks you're asking about, ask about the fireworks, okay?
Yeah.
You know, but don't ask about that. It's like, can I celebrate the New Year? It's like, celebrate it, but what are you celebrating? And this is what I mentioned earlier. It's about giving value to what Allah and His Messenger ﷺ gave value to. Why we're giving value to things that had la qimata laha, there's no value. It's like there's big celebration, there's a big kind of, and then what? Nothing. So I think, you know, in a time where, you know, we are saturated with so much information coming to us, you can do this, you can do that, you can watch this, you can do this, you can play this, you can play that, you can go here, you can go there. Give value to certain things, concentrate on things which will bring you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Give fatwa, say, yeah, go ahead and do it, no problem. Okay, where are you taking the ummah? Then what? Okay, that's why it's important that when respected people of knowledge, when you give rulings with people, to the awam who are looking up to you and will follow what you say, it's important that try to look at the awaqib, try to look at the direction that you're pushing people. In what direction are you telling people to go to? It's just further, dissolving of their identity, as I see it, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is best. Okay? So I think there's a great responsibility upon those who have an impact on the Muslims to think very carefully about the words that you are saying. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Thank you, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair for your answers. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far. We have our last break now of the show coming up, which is going to be for a few minutes. So once we're back, we'll continue taking your questions, brothers and sisters. So do stay tuned with us. For now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. wa barakatuh. Welcome back to today's Ask Eman show, where we're going to be here for our last segment now for the next 10 minutes with you, brothers and sisters. So if you have any questions, do pick up the phone and call us on 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you can send your questions to our WhatsApp number, email address, and if you're watching along online on YouTube or Facebook, you can leave your questions at the comment section, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
We have to keep it up.
Yeah. What I was going to say as well
Yeah.
is that you mentioned Facebook and YouTube. There is an Eman channel app as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
On the App Store,
Yeah.
whether you have Android or Apple, things like that. You can download the app.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think they can access
You can watch it there as well, yeah.
it live there. You
Yeah.
can access previous shows as well.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse for people, mashallah, not watching the show.
Yeah, true. There is an app which you can find it on the platforms, on both the platforms, yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Sorry. Yeah, our producer spoke to me in my ear. I replied to him. So, okay, we're going to continue the show now. So, Shaykh, we have our brother Ibrahim all the way from New York calling us, mashallah. So, we're going to take the call. Assalamu alaikum, brother Ibrahim. How are you today?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very good, thank you, brother.
Mashallah. Thank you for watching along all the way from New York. How are you and how's your family?
They're all fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. And your question for us today?
Yeah, my question is regarding the Hajj.
Mm-hmm.
Does one need to touch the Kaaba in order to perform a perfect Hajj?
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's all my question.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, mashallah, that's a good question. So when a person performs Hajj, there are 4 essential elements to the Hajj that need to be performed. The first one is al-ihram. The person needs to enter the state of ihram. Then there is the standing on Arafah. Then there is tawaf and sa'i. Okay, these are the 4 must elements for Hajj to be valid. Now, with regards to the tawaf, to validate your tawaf, is it an absolute must for you to touch the Kaaba? The answer is quite simply, no, it is not. Okay, it is allowed for you to go around, make tawaf around the Kaaba without you actually touching the black stone. And there are only 2 places which we find in the Sunnah that we are encouraged to, if at all possible, to touch on the Kaaba. And that is the black stone and also the Yemeni corner, that you can touch it. Not to kiss it, but just to touch it with your right hand. Okay, these are the only 2 places on the Kaaba which is something recommended for you to do while performing the tawaf. If due to the crowds that you are unable to touch any of these 2 places on the Kaaba, then you can quite simply, as people do, they raise their right hand towards the black stone saying Allahu Akbar, and that is sufficient for you and your tawaf is valid. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Brother Ibrahim, does that answer your question? Okay, Brother Ibrahim is off the line now, but we hope that answers the question. If you need it clarified more, you have any other questions, do give us a call back. Also, everyone watching at home, you can give us a call if you have any questions on 0203 515 0769. So we're going to move on now to our next question, Shaykh, which is from YouTube. The question is it not permissible if you...
Like, is it haram?
Yeah. Is it not permissible? Yeah. Is it haram? If you, Hassan, read the surah not in order. Okay. Is it not permissible to read the surah in the Quran out of order? Or is it better to read the surahs in order?
Right, clear. Okay. So we have 114 chapters in the Quran. Yeah? Now, is it a must for you to read, for example, Surah Al-Fatiha, then Surah Al-Baqarah, then Surah Al-Imran, then Surah Al-Nisa, and things like this? If you choose, and this is more of an issue when you're in salah, when you're in prayer. Some of the ulama say it is better to, to recite, if you're going to recite in the first rak'ah one particular chapter, it's better to recite the chapter that comes after that. If you do it the other way, it's jaiz. It is permissible with the vast majority of the scholars. So there's not a problem, inshallah ta'ala. If you were to recite, let's say for example, in the first rak'ah, you recited قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, that being the last chapter of the Quran. And then after that you recited قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, which is a chapter, slightly before it. That's not a problem. Salah is valid, no problem, inshallah ta'ala. But it's recommended, as by many of the ulama, they say that the chapters, if they are read in order. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is from WhatsApp. The question is, Assalamu alaikum. If I have feelings for someone and I want to send her an invitation for marriage, so a proposal, how can I approach her in a halal way whilst knowing nothing about her and her family?
So, you're making judgment on how she looks then. You don't know anything about her. You're saying, oh, she's beautiful and I want to marry her. Okay, I mean, this can happen. And it is important that, that as Muslims we uphold the correct etiquettes, because maybe the sister's married. And if she's married and you propose to her, then this is a problem. Okay, so we have to be realistic in, is this somebody that you have even the option of marrying in the first place? Okay, so if it's somebody just you walked past in the mall, and he's a handsome brother or she's a beautiful sister, and oh yeah, I want to marry them, and you walk up to them, are you married or not? This is not how it's done. It's not how it is done. Okay, this is you're not buying cows, chicken, and sheep that you just walk through a marketplace. Okay, and they say, oh, I like this, I'm going to buy it. This is not how it works. Okay, and I warn against and advise against people who do this practice and saying, I'm doing it halal. Okay, this is not how you do it. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from fitan, because the person may be married. So you need to do what is necessary to find out if that person is married or not. If you can't do that, it's not for you just to walk up to a person. It doesn't work like this. Okay. If you have a means of finding out, okay, by all means find out and do things correctly. And maybe there was a lot of different ways of then finding out. We don't have the time to mention all 50,000 ways or different situations that people might be in. Maybe you can speak to somebody who's able to direct you or give you some advice about how to do this properly. Okay, but we must uphold an Islamic etiquette when trying to find a spouse. Okay, if Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to find a way make a way for you, then alhamdulillah it will happen. But you have to ensure that you do things correctly. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you. Our next question is from our brother from Dublin on the line right now. So, Assalamu alaikum. What's your name and how are you today?
Did talk to your colleague, and I told that if you could leave my name ambiguous, anonymous, rather than announcing it on air.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you if you...
That's completely fine. You don't have to give your name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, and your question? What's your question for us today?
Yes, let me say. My question is there any effect of the practicing practicing spouses? For example, what I've seen is my wife was not very practicing Muslim before. I mean, she would casually pray. Now that she has become more regular in praise and, 4 times, 5 times she doesn't.
Alhamdulillah.
She has become rude at the same time, as if she has fulfilled God's obligations and God's, she's fulfilled all the religious obligations. She doesn't need to be any more polite, or she has become very, easily irritable, and for no reason she will just flare up and retaliate very rudely. Is there anything that you think one should be more careful for the women to know that if you are doing these supplications fully, you should also be a bit polite to your family and your spouses? Is there anything special? Is there any written thing in this?
Okay.
In our religion?
Thank you so much for your question, brother. May Allah reward you. Stay on the line, inshallah, whilst our Shaykh answers you.
So alhamdulillah, the fact that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides a person to fulfill their obligations, this no doubt is a good sign for that individual. if that person's behavior over an extended period of time changes, not necessarily should attribute it to because they're now practicing, they have become, their behavior is not as good as it was. Okay, maybe there's another issue completely. If the fact that they're practicing, offering their obligation is something commendable, but no doubt that the relationship between husband and wife and the children is something which is extremely important in Islam. We should respect, love, and show compassion and mercy to one another. Okay, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to soften all of our hearts and to give us an understanding of those who are beloved to us, inshallah ta'ala, and constantly make dua, brother. I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to join your hearts upon all that is good. Allahumma ameen.
Thank you, Shaykh. That brings us to the end of our show. So Jazakallah khair for joining us today.
Barakallahu feek.
For the last time. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched along today, joined us for the show, benefited, and everyone who's sent any questions or picked up the phone and called. We ask Allah to make the knowledge of benefit to you, and inshallah until our next show. For now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.